Hello, members of the Hornet Nation. I'm Allison Garrett, the president of Emporia State University. Welcome to Alumni in the Spotlight, an interview series where we celebrate this year's distinguished alumni and outstanding recent graduates. We are so proud to recognize DARIA BOSSMAN as one of our 2020 distinguished alumni. That's the highest honor granted by Emporia State University and our Alumni Association to a degree-bearing alum. Since that program began in 1960, we have recognized more than 200 alumni. Congratulations, Daria. We're so proud of you and your work. Thank you for representing Emporia State University so well. And to our audience, please sit back and enjoy this interview with one of ESU's finest graduates.
Thank you, President Garrett. Again, welcome to the Alumni in the Spotlight series. My name is Usop Jong, and I'm the Dean of the School of Library and Information Management we call SLIM. Today, we are here to celebrate one of our 2020 distinguished alumni, Daria BOSSMAN. Daria is a member of SLIM's first distance education cohort in Sioux City, Iowa, which started in 1988. She graduated in 1991. Each state has a state librarian as the top librarian of the state. Out of 50 states in the US, SLIM's alumni currently occupy 4 state librarian positions, of which we are very much proud. Daria is the longest serving among the 4. She is the South Dakota State Librarian since 2013. Daria is the most important driving force when we opened our South Dakota cohort in 2017. Without her passion and help, SLIM would not have been able to open our cohort in Sioux Falls. I'm very happy to tell you that this fall we have a new cohort in South Dakota for 4 consecutive years. Joining our honored guest today is our interviewer, Carol Levers, the director of Kansas City, Kansas Public Library and a SLIM alum. You will have the opportunity to learn more about Daria BOSSMAN and then have a chance to ask your own questions. To do so, please visit emporia.edu/live and submit your questions using the Q&A form found at the site. At the conclusion of the interview, if you have previously received a Zoom link, don't forget to join us for our after-party Zoom discussion, where you will have the chance for some one-on-one discussion with Daria BOSSMAN. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to introduce you to Daria and Carol.
Thank you, Dean Wassup Young, for this introduction. As mentioned, I am Carol Levers, Director of Libraries for Kansas City, Kansas Public System. I am honored to be here this evening to be part of the Spotlight series. I would like to welcome all staff, alumni, and the entire SLIM family. It's an honor to be part of this evening. I'm very excited to have with us this evening, and she's joining me, our distinguished alumna, Daria BOSSMAN. Good evening, Daria. Welcome.
Hi, good evening.
Okay, you started as a teacher before you joined Emporia State University to complete your master's degree. Then you worked at Briarcliff University as a reference acquisition librarian. You also accepted the position as director in Morningside College Library in Sioux City for about 15 years before you embarked on your journey as the state librarian. We also know that you became the first ever distance education cohort in Sioux City, Iowa. So we are all here this evening to kind of glean from your experience. What sparked your interest in dedicating your career to libraries and library management?
Well, I love stories. Hi, Carol. And can I tell you a quick story from my childhood?
Certainly.
I think I was born loving to read, but there weren't a lot of books in my house. I do remember that I would beg my mother and my dad or grandmother to buy those books in the grocery store. I usually had more success with my grandmother or my dad, but I really wasn't exposed at all to a library. There were shelves of books in the back of the classroom through elementary school. But when I got to junior high as a seventh grader, and I'll make this story quick, but I got stuck in a huge study hall my first semester at in seventh grade in this big school system in Oklahoma, and it was hot and they had the windows open and the teacher said, Mrs. Seymour, for some reason, I remembered her name. She said, if you want to go to the library, just come up here and sign up. And I scurried up there and I was the first to sign up and got a pass to go down the hall. And I walked into this room that really was quite old fashioned, big old desk, large, mean looking woman behind the desk, tall stacks of books. But I just fell in love. I walked down those stacks and I thought, I can read every one of these books for free. And then I talked to an eighth grader that was there, and he said, "You know, you can work here." And I thought, that's what I'm going to do next year. So the next semester, I had speech instead of study hall, thankfully. But the next semester, but the next year, I signed up for school media. When I walked in, three classrooms and two walls had been knocked down. The walls had been painted. There were modern, shorter shelves, and a beautiful, tall, red-headed lady by the name of Miss Janelle Kirby came, just click, click, click up with her high heels up to greet me and said, "Oh, you're Daria Phillips, and you're working for me this year." And I fell in love with her as a librarian, and I fell in love with the library, and she really turned that library system around. But honestly, it was my first love, was the love of books, even in that old grungy library before they made it into a more modern library. So quick story is I was able to reconnect with her after 50 some years, and
Wonderful.
she is a retired librarian, and it's been fun to talk to her a couple of times. But it was a love of reading and love of libraries early on. And I worked in libraries in high school and in college. Didn't really think about becoming a librarian right after college. I got married, and it seemed like education was a very flexible career, and I enjoyed my 10 years teaching. But always my first love was libraries, and that's what my goal was all along, was to get my degree in library science sometime, and I got that opportunity.
Great. Why did you choose Emporia State University, and how was your experience at SLIM?
Well, Emporia State chose me. I had a girlfriend who I'd gone to college with, and we had been buddies and worked in the library there in college. And she went on to the University of Denver and got her library degree. And she happened to be working at Wayne State College in Wayne, Nebraska, when we moved back to Nebraska to live in Ponca, Nebraska. So we were only about 25 miles apart. So I visited her several times. And she said to me, I think there's going to be a multi-state program that's brought here by somebody. Different universities were kind of vying for the chance to be there. I said, well, keep me informed. At the time, I was just substitute teaching, and I really that was when I wanted to make a career shift. And I remember saying to myself, I don't care if this program is good or bad. I'm going to get my library degree because I want to be a librarian. And boy, was I pleasantly surprised when I walked in to the first class with Dr. Marty Hale and Dr. Roger Greer, probably the two best professors I've ever experienced in my life. Fantastic people, and they were very inspirational, and it was worth every cent. And all the long miles that all of us traveled. There were 67 of us that started out in that program. 40 some of us graduated a year and a half later.
P. Hale is a legend. So were there any barriers you had to overcome to advance in your career? And just a follow-up, if so, what were they and how did you manage to overcome them?
Well, 3 little boys and no money. And living, eventually I found out it wasn't going to be at Wayne State. The program was Emporia State and it was going to be at Morningside College, which was in Sioux City. Well, that was still 25 miles in the other direction. So in those days, it was unheard of to drive that far. We didn't have a commuter society. We lived in my husband's hometown that was just about 800, 900 people. And it was very odd for me to go running off on Friday, Saturday, and Sundays to school at Morningside College. So that's not at all unusual nowadays to be online or travel, but it was very, very unusual. And so one of the very barriers was probably the stigmatism of getting my degree. It was like, what was I up to? Was I going to leave my husband or whatever, So, and just running a household and my husband was great with the boys, but there were times when things were kind of out of control. Like one night I came home at midnight and after class and studying, and there was chocolate and vanilla and pink stuff oozing out of the freezer, and the freezer door had not been shut, and the ice cream was melting, and nobody had noticed that there was a fountain of ice cream coming down the refrigerator. So, and there were lights on all three floors and little Indians running all over the place, and it was midnight. So there were times like that were challenging.
Do you have any thoughts related to the role of libraries in relation to the current social justice environment?
I do. I am of the opinion that we are going to emerge out of this COVID mess as champions. I think there will be more than just the medical heroes. I think librarians are going to be heroes. I think that librarianship is going to be the new cool profession. Get those jobs now. And I think that libraries are going to finally see their day, because we have spent 20, 30 years transforming into community centers and program outreach. We know our communities, and the communities are diverse. And when other parts of leadership and community leaders don't know their community, librarians do. They see them every day. They deal with them every day. And we're going to be the teachers and the healers of communities when we get through not only COVID-19, but this entire political unrest. I truly believe that libraries will be positioned to be the leaders and the teachers of tolerance and love and respect for one another. And we're the center for immigration as well. I mean, we always have been. I love immigration stories. We've always, the American democracy has been built on libraries. And it's a well-known phrase, every man's university is the public library. And it will be seen even more so in the coming decades. So I think for the profession and for libraries and for funding of libraries, I think the future is very, very bright.
Are there systemic issues libraries face in serving their communities?
Well, librarians have had to face this for many years. And I believe that we will be the breach. We will be the entity, the organization that will be able to bring people together. Libraries, library programming, and just our knowledge of the community will help to resolve some of those issues.
Right. How do you view the role of libraries in elevating literacy across all ages?
Well, this is what's so great is that this is our bread and butter. Mm-hmm. Libraries have been about literacy since librarians formed libraries in the back of a schoolroom or the back of a church in 1880 on the South Dakota prairie. It's just so, and this goes back to your other question about immigration. I once had a friend, a very nice, well-educated woman, say to me she was disturbed that in her community they were buying books that were both English and Spanish, and she thought that was a waste of money. And I said, Karen, I said, you know, you have Hispanics, Latinos that are learning English, and what better way than to have their children read to them, and then they could read to their children those simple books. I said bilingual books are very important, and that librarian is right on the money. She or he knows what they're doing. So these are the kind of things that our community needs to be taught about, and librarians already know these things.
How do you see the role of libraries in knowledge, in the knowledge economy?
Well, we're in the center of everything, which is so cool. Libraries are in the center of the publishing issues that are going on right now, workforce development, in just every way. We are the hub of the wheel. That's why I think we will play a pivotal role in whether it's a small town in Kansas or it's Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, or Omaha. Libraries will play a pivotal role.
Okay. Do you have any expectations about working in and managing libraries that turned out to be incorrect?
Yes. When I was in graduate school, I think I was very naive. I thought everybody loved libraries. I don't think very many people realize, Carol, that of our generation, we've spent the last 30 years fighting in back rooms, in offices with some very ignorant people. And sometimes they were very educated people. But for some reason, there's been political movements that thought that they could take out libraries, and libraries were going away because everything's on the internet, and that was the excuse. There were also people, I think, that were just not liberally educated. Even if they had a master's degree, it was in business or something, and that's fine. But they weren't readers, and they weren't liberally educated, and they didn't understand the community role of the library, and they didn't have much experience with libraries. So there are a lot of scars and wounds. I think things are much better the last 4 or 5 years. I think you might agree, but there have been some horrific attempts to take down libraries in communities, and take physically them down and out, or at least cut away. And that's academic, that's special, that's medical, that's school, that's public. Every library. Library administrators have had to be tough cookies in the last several decades.
Correct on that. So with all your experiences in so many different libraries, do you have any thoughts on the future of libraries?
Well, as I said before, I think the future is very bright. Yeah, I see 80% of our libraries in South Dakota are rural. And I see a whole new generation of lay librarians coming on. And though there have been a few elderly, older ladies that ran libraries very nicely and effectively, they were hesitant to do programming, to really get out in their community, to invite other organizations to work with them, to really branch out even in the technology or to become automated. And there is so much excitement and enthusiasm. I was just talking yesterday to a young gal who took over a county library system that was really kind of tired, well-funded, but tired and not doing a lot. And she has a marketing background, and she's on fire and can hardly wait to come to our institute. So that's the role of the state libraries, is to educate the lay librarians. And that's one thing I didn't know so much about when I was in library school. It was focused all about the big libraries and the trends and the theory, and I didn't realize the pivotal role that IMLS, the Institute of Museum and Library Services, which is the federal agency, and the state libraries, the pivotal role they play in supporting the some 17,000 rural and small libraries across the United States who do not have college educated or MLS educated librarians.
Right.
But there is an excitement among lay librarians like I have never seen before, an excitement to learn and grow and change.
What, in your opinion, is the biggest challenge facing libraries today?
Well, I think it's communication. We have to communicate that we have, and sometimes you have to kind of swallow your pride and be humble when your city leaders or your administrators in your school acts like this is a brand new thing. You know, all this makerspace and programs, and you know, it's been around for 20 years, and we've been advocating it for more than that. But they're coming around, and so I think communication and knowing when to jump on the bandwagon because it's coming. And I just told a school librarian today, and we gave her a grant, and I said, but there's more money that the federal government will give to schools. So I said, you keep on top of that, and you talk to you've got your principal excited about this. And I said, you have other technology needs. I said, you ask. You won't get it unless you ask. You get right in there, and you get some of that federal money when it comes around again.
How do we preserve a passion for our historical approach in the library versus the advancement of technology and data?
Gosh, I have a passion for all of it. To me, it's both. It's two sides of the same coin. That's what makes libraries so cool, is that they both have an archival presence, which everybody seems to understand. They understand that you keep the old stuff, but and then we can turn that into, we're digitizing it, and it's available 24/7, and so even that has become very modernized and easy to talk. People are anxious to talk about that. And then it's easy to tell them not everything is not on the internet, but we're getting it on there. If you give it, I had a congressman say, how many people do you have working on digitization? And I said 1.5. And he said, how long is it going to take to digitize all of these state documents? And I said, 30 to 50 years. And he said, why? And I said, well, you haven't given me any more money for more staff. I said, it's data in, data out. He got it. They get it when you connect the dots. But I see it as two sides of the same coin. You have different people that have different expertise, and we all work together. We really all do come together when it comes to digitization, though. Excuse me.
And how do you ignite that same drive in the new generation?
I don't think I have to. As I said, I am just really heartened, and it just practically moves me to tears what I see happening out there as older librarians retire and newer ones. And some of them aren't librarians, they're becoming librarians as we speak. They're just diving in there and taking over little rural libraries and just turning the library on its head and just shocking the community that all these services were missing. And then, when people have services, then they want more,
Exactly.
So, I've had people call me up and say, our doing the background negotiation work for our Overdrive South Dakota Titles to Go, so that little libraries can afford ebooks. And one man said to me, this is the greatest thing you've ever done with the library. And he said that to his local library. They were just overwhelmed that a little tiny community of 900 people could have 18, 19, 20, 23, or it keeps going up, 1,000 popular books available to them on their app. It blows them away. And then they get excited about funding that little library on the corner.
Exactly. What are the most important attributes of successful leaders today?
I'm a real fan of integrity and honesty. I've seen really smart men and women shoot their careers in the foot, so to speak, because they weren't honest with the data, and they frankly didn't have the integrity, the depth of the integrity that they needed to have. I think passion is very important. Why would you ever want to get up in the morning and go to work and do something that you're not passionate about? And I wrote down something else. I forgot what I said. Let me look and see. A love for your community and a love for your staff. I think that you don't have to be an extrovert, but you have to be a people person in the sense that that you really care about your community. I'm a real firm believer and that libraries are the heart of democracy, and that we don't have a democracy if we don't have free public libraries, and that our children can't learn to read freely in schools. I think it's both an educational thing and a civic duty that we have libraries. And I also put being a problem solver, and you cannot be a problem solver if you're not a good listener. There's plenty of people that have all kinds of solutions, and they're spouting out the solutions. But 9 times out of 10, the solutions are going to be in your staff if you listen to them. Remember, they're the minute details in the more detailed areas of your system. So you've got to listen to your staff, and then you can be a problem. But you've got to, at your heart, want to solve problems.
What leadership skills do you find most helpful?
I think you have to have a team mentality. I think you have to leave your ego at the door. If you're going to be a leader, you have to be humble. People that want to be right and have to have the last say shoot themselves in the foot. You're not gonna have a happy staff. You're not gonna have a creative staff. You're not gonna have a staff that solves problems if you're not flexible enough to admit you're wrong, to say you're sorry.
Yeah.
They have to see you as a leader, as a human being too.
Right.
And if you screw up, it's not weakness to say, I screwed up, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Discuss a leadership challenge you faced and what you did to overcome it.
I thought about this for a while. Well, this person no longer is my boss, and it's a different administration, so I think I could tell on him a little bit. There was a time, and this gets back to the outrageous fights that our generation, Carol, that we've had to fight. But there was a time when I was brought to the head office and told that I had to fire 7 people and wipe out an entire department. So while I was taking a deep breath, I said to myself, they're idiots. But I didn't say that out loud. But they were an administration and that didn't ask questions and thought they could micromanage and thought that libraries were simple and they could easily fix their financial need with telling me what to do, micromanaging. And I realized they weren't going to listen and I couldn't argue. So I visualized myself on a cliff jumping over. I realized I had to do something and I had to mean it. And I realized that, and it was true. It was a true statement. I said, I will not fire my 7 staff, and I will go downstairs and I will write my letter of resignation. And that absolutely shocked my boss. And she backpedaled and said, well, we'll talk to the people above her. So when I got back to my office, pretty shook up, I thought, well, what do they really want? They're not mean. They're not trying to ruin 7 people's lives and cut off funding and salaries from 7 families. What is it they really? Well, they wanted money. So what they should have done in the first place is gone to the library expert, which was me, and said, we need X number of dollars. You find it in your budget. So that's what I did. Now, I ended up having to fire one person, well, I go with one person, her job was a duplicate of she did the same thing that somebody else did. And I hated to do that because she was a good person. She landed okay eventually, but it was terrible. But I saved six jobs, and I saved a whole mess of problems with the federal government because we were under contract for grants that would have totally triggered the feds and they would have pulled grants. And these were people above me that were just ignorant, and they were egotistical. And I couldn't tell them that, even though I wanted to scream, you are all idiots. But you can't do that. You have to be friendly and cooperative. And they were happy when I came back with a plan. That's what they should have asked for to begin with. But that was quite a challenge. But they were building Menards on the edge of town, and I could visually see myself in the checkout. I thought, well, that's the way I'll finish my career, working at Menards. It didn't happen, thankfully.
What are you most proud of?
We have done some amazing things at the State Library. I'm proud of all my work, but here at the state, I inherited a demoralized, shattered staff. They had been cut severely. 80% of their collection had been sent out. They had a new strategic plan that was good, but they were demoralized and just needed energy and enthusiasm. And I guess I'm proud that I was able to put together a really cohesive, effective team and do it at a time when, as I said, I had a boss who was really trying to kill the State Library, and she had bosses above her that were in a very red state, so they were really trying to minimize, if not totally eliminate, State Library. So we got out there. I said, we're going to get out there and we're going to work in the weeds where we're needed. And that's what we did. We were going to focus on the needs. We also were able to migrate from a 35-year-old SDLN, South Dakota Library Network, which had served our state very well, but it was a mainframe, it was clunky, and we were able to migrate to South Dakota Shared, which is a cloud-based network, and involve twice as many libraries, not have a fee, and really get the smaller libraries doing their own interlibrary loan that's been so successful. I wanted to see those lay librarians act like librarians and not be dependent on the State Library. So that is something I'm very proud of.
Well, Daria, thank you for sharing your incredible story with us. Now we would like to open up to questions from our audience. I just want to let them know to please remember you can submit your questions to Daria at emporia.edu/live using the submit questions button for this particular interview. I've gone and Google Docs, and I see there's about 6 questions. Candace Owens, and let me just make sure that I can read this on the other screen. I'm most interested in archival profession. Do you find them useful and or resourceful in your current or experience in librarianship?
Well, I had friends who took the archival class and loved it. And I always wanted to squeeze it in, even though I wasn't planning on being an archivist. I was a history major, so I had a love. I spent lots of times in lots of time doing research in archives. So it's archives are a special place. But I didn't take the class, and lo and behold, when I was director at Morningside, we lost our our part-time archivist position. And guess who had to do archives for 12 of those 15 years? Me. So I learned a lot of archival skills. Didn't have a lot of time for it. I don't know if I did it very well, but I think it's a really good course to take, to have it in your back pocket for everybody. kind of like children's lit is a good course to have in your back pocket. But the future is bright. There's always been a need for archivists. The trouble is sometimes when you get people in charge that want to cut budgets, that's an unseen area. You have to find a way to make your archives sexier and more public and more seen through displays and programming. You've got to scare some people away from attacking. You just get a little paranoid after you're in leadership for a while, because you never know who's lurking to pick on you and take your money. But you do have to think positive, not negative. And you have to think about how you can showcase your archives and your archivists so that you don't lose those important positions. And then kind of lay archivists like me have to take over. And I had to train 2 volunteers just to try to keep up.
He also asked, what courses would you recommend, including the ones specific as the AS concentration? I don't know what
I am not that familiar with the SLIM program right now. So I really talk to your advisor. You really have to know yourself. Sometimes going through graduate school is an experience in discovering yourself. I'll tell you a quick story. When I first applied, I was rattling on about how I wanted to be a high school librarian because I'd been a high school teacher. And the gal that was interviewing me, she said, "Have you ever considered administration?" And just shocked me. Well, she saw me as an administrator. She saw that I had those talents of advocacy and leadership. And I was 40 years old and I didn't see it in myself. So it's no sin not to know yourself. I mean, that's the whole process of education, is to know yourself. So you find yourself by asking mentors and teachers and friends, what am I good at? What do you see in me? How do you see me applying this degree? And that will lead you into the courses that you should take.
Next one is Semi Espinche. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that name correctly. In the South Dakota State News online on February 21st, 2020, there's an article on newly accredited public libraries honored in Capitol Rotunda. I'm in the first ever Arkansas cohort and a native Arkansan, and have worked as the administrative assistant to the library director at the Rogers Public Library for the past 8 years. I don't believe that our state has an accreditation system for public libraries. Could you please speak to your state system and the 3 levels: essential, enhanced, or exemplary? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very proud of that. I created that. When I wanted a system, well, first of all, SDLA was doing some kind of accreditation, but nobody had any time to have any standards or even the committee to meet. And I said, we're going to really do this. This is something that the state library should be doing. And so we got a statewide task force together. And I said, my message to them was, I want you to scour the websites and state libraries, and I want you to find those that have a tiered system. I want us to create something that allows even the littlest library to sort of like do a strategic plan without even realizing it, to do an evaluation in many different areas, so that little libraries will be looking at governance and looking at programming and looking at their collection, and not just one narrow area like ours or something. So, and I said I wanted to be able that any little library could move up and go from one level to the next level to the next level. The more that their trustees get trained, the more coursework that librarians take, the more education librarians get, the more they reach certain benchmarks. And they came up with a wonderful system. It's been tweaked many times. We've had many suggestions through the years, and it's worked very well. Now it's voluntary. I wish it wasn't voluntary, because we still only get a third to a half. in any given year of our libraries being accredited. But a few years into the process, I said to Kathleen, excuse me, my CE coordinator, I said, we got to make this public. We got to advocate for the state library. I'm sorry. And so she had some connections, people that worked at the Capitol, and she said, let's do it in the rotunda. That would be so cool. It's so beautiful. And we do have to kind of scream, but we invite the libraries and their trustees, and many of them have never been to the state capitol. And we also got SDLA to have their library legislative day at the same time, and they provide lunch for the legislators, so we softened them up. In recent years, we haven't had so many legislators who could or would stay too late in the afternoon for the accreditation service, but still gets a lot of press. The press show up. They take a lot of cool pictures. It's a way to take those pictures back to the local library in the local community. And it's been very successful.
Okay. Oh, the questions are just coming. I noticed, and this is Sammy too, I noticed in your LibGuide section on the South Dakota SL webpage that you also have a voluntary certification for public library staff. When researching for papers, homework in brackets, I noticed that Indiana also has a similar offering, but again, not Arkansas, to my knowledge. Please speak to the benefits of such a program. I feel like it could bring morale up and be motivational for lifelong learning.
Well, it's tied into our accreditation. I said we're not going to have accredited libraries that don't have certified libraries. And previously, only directors could be certified. I said, no, we're going to have different levels for different kinds of staff. And so again, we get a third to a half of our libraries that go through the process. I just sent out their certificates. They couldn't have an award ceremony. Usually SDLA has been very gracious to give us some time at SDLA. So for some of these small libraries, it's a great opportunity to come to SDLA, and the local city council will pay for them to come to SDLA conference. It's a big deal, and to be recognized in front of all these professional librarians. So we did the same process about 2010. We had a statewide committee, and we tried to read everything we could and see what other state libraries were doing and follow best practices. Now, Arkansas has a brand new state librarian, so you call up Jennifer and you give her a chance. I think she'll be a great state librarian for you.
Jeannie Lou, what was your most challenging career adjustment?
Adjustment? I mean, I've worked all my life. You know, it's not easy when you have babies and you're up at 2 a.m. changing diapers, and or your babysitter gets sick. I know I'm pretty flexible. I don't really see life in terms of adjustments. I just roll.
Hello. Tiffany, how has the rising of the digital age changed your profession?
You would hardly recognize. I started at Briarcliff University and the card catalog, you know. I remember the first computer I got through a grant, and it was in my office, and we put Baker and Taylor automated ordering on it. People came by to look at it. I mean, it makes me sound like such a dinosaur, I know. And my second computer, I said, we're going to put out in the reference area, and we put ERIC, the ERIC database on it. The education professors were just over the moon, and they were sending all their students over, and it sat just outside my office. So it was just so much fun to watch the hee-hawing and the glee. The third computer we got, we put on the other side of the reference. And I remember one night I was working, and a young guy came in and he said, I'm supposed to have a lesson plan. I can't find any lesson plans. I said, well, what's your subject? What are you keying in? He said, lesson plan. I said, well, you're not going to find anything if you, and then there, so yeah, it's come a long way from the print. We had a great big Xerox copying machine that was almost as big as a circulation desk, made so much noise. Yeah, clunk, 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 clunk. So it's changed in so many ways, and yet it's so much the same. It's serving people. It's getting information. It's so much easier to find information. I remember, just going through encyclopedias and trying to answer simple questions. Now we just say, Siri, what's this? Or it's just things. The simple questions don't come to the library anymore like they used to. But we would spend hours going over encyclopedia sets trying to find some of these answers to these oddball questions.
Andrea, Data, what technologies have emerged in libraries due to COVID that you believe may have long-lasting impact beyond the pandemic?
Well, Zoom, obviously. I just said, this is my third Zoom meeting today, and I think I had 2 or 3 Zoom meetings yesterday, and I said, about my second Zoom meeting yesterday, I said, I wish I'd had stock in Zoom. They've got to be, just mega rich.
Oh, yes.
We were at home in March all of a sudden, and we were having Zoom meetings, leadership Zoom meetings. It was so funny. I mean, it was just hilarious. And then if it didn't work, you'd run back to the office to get on your regular computer, because Zoom was much more stable there than it was on my laptop here at home. Zoom obviously is here to stay, and online meetings. We tried online education webinars, 12 years ago when 15 years ago when I first came to the state library, and we just couldn't get people to sign up for it, and they were intimidated by it, and now it's just I'm sure we'll continue to have as many Zoom meetings and Zoom teaching webinars, teaching sessions as we have in person, maybe more. One thing that's here to stay doesn't have anything to do with technology, but it just tickles me to death, is curbside service. Every single librarian, big or small, says we will not let go of this. This is a hit.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are, rearranging their workflow and their staff to be. It's readers advisory all over again. So there's a whole other generation of library staff that's learning to if they like Western mysteries. Where are the Western mysteries, and what other books would this guy like that you could check out to him and throw in this bag on Western mysteries? It's amazing how people love what librarians pick out for them and how good librarians get at that. And that's just old-fashioned reader's advisory.
One more, we've got quite a few, but we'll leave it for the other side of the breakout. And this is Hazlitt Henderson. I'm a SLIM student right now, and I've been wondering about this throughout my time in the program. Would you recommend taking classes that are interesting to you, but perhaps less useful for future work as a librarian?
I have to say again, follow your passion and find out who you are. Don't take an archive class or advanced cataloging class if you don't want to be a cataloger. I mean, don't settle for second best. I mean, you have to be humble, and you have to be willing to take some jobs maybe that you don't want to do. And, lo and behold, you might discover, I didn't know I loved this, and I love it. 30 years later, you're still in the same place. But start from the perspective of, I'm going to take classes that I'm passionate about. And you'll be amazed how the universe arranges things. If you have integrity and you're a hard worker, you'd be amazed how things will open up for you. But you follow your passion so that you can get up in the morning and have a smile on your face and a skip in your beat.
Okay, I want to thank everyone for tuning in this evening. But before we close, I would like to extend an opportunity of maybe some last minute thoughts or reflections from you, Daria.
Well, this has been fun. You know, Carol, when we old fogies talk, we realize we've been around a long time, and it really is true. Life goes by so quickly. So
fast.
Have fun. Yeah, yeah, it's been a wonderful career, and I've never had a day that I regretted being a librarian. My teacher background has been wonderful, but I love being a librarian because it's so diverse. People think it's simple and they got it down and people just we read and check out books. No, it's just so diverse. And it's fun to go to conferences like ALA or even state and regional conferences because you meet people that do so many different things. It's just so much fun to learn what different librarians do in different fields. And you'll find your tribe. You go to conferences and you're a reference librarian of college kids, or you're an instructional reference librarian or freshman. You'll find your tribe of freshman instructional librarians. But it's just fun to run into all kinds of librarians, art catalogers, and stuff like that, and medical librarians. And it's just a fun, diverse profession.
So again, thank you again for joining us. Don't forget to log on for the Zoom after party by clicking on the link provided in the email sent earlier today. And thanks for joining us again.
Bye.
So we want to use this extended time to reflect on what you have heard today and be able to ask any remaining questions that you may have for Daria. We will start by reflecting on this question. What was something you have heard today that has inspired you and can help you achieve success in your path to the future? We will be breaking into breakout rooms to further discuss this question. You will have 3 minutes to reflect, and then we will join back again. These rooms will not be monitored, so you will need to start the conversation yourselves. So if you have questions after that, we will again pose that to Daria. So please, again, visit emporia.edu/live. Thank you.